My first full day in London was about going back to places I had already been. In 1985, as a student, I had gone to see Big Ben, Westminster Abbey, the Houses of Parliament, returned there in 1990 as a tourist, and so going all these years later, I wanted to see how differently they look now. One thing I had not seen before was the London Eye, so that was my first stop. I had seen what a popular tourist attraction it is. It's the most popular paid tourist spot in London. And once I went up, I could see the area quite clearly. It was a beautiful day, a beautiful warm day. So enjoyed the air conditioning inside the little pods and got a good view of that part of London. Looking at the area around the Houses of Parliament 41 years after these pictures were taken, it's quite a bit different in terms of the weather, but the buildings themselves, of course, are exactly the same. I guess you would call this a refreshed experience, taking the memories that I had from 41 years ago and comparing them to how they look now. In the light of a July day, of course, they're going to look very different. Now, I didn't actually go inside Westminster Abbey when I was there this day. I went back on a different day, so basically I took some video on the outside and then headed to my next destination. My next stop was Kensington Palace, Queen Victoria's birthplace. Looking at the picture here and the video from when I got there in 2026, you can see that the path in front is a little different. Now you can walk directly from the park right down the side of the statue towards the palace itself. I had remembered from my previous experience that they're a little touchy here about taking photos inside the palace, so I checked out the policy before I went. It looked to me that as long as I wasn't using a camera or a flash or a tripod, that I should be able to film, except where specifically prohibited. I did get waved at one point from one of the attendants telling me not to video, but as far as I knew, in most of the palace it was permitted. Kensington Palace was originally constructed in 1605 as a private mansion. Later in 1689, it was bought by joint monarchs William and Mary, and at the direction of Sir Christopher Wren, expanded into a royal residence. And then later monarchs, including Queen Anne and George I and George II, continued to expand Kensington Palace into a lavish residence. In the public portion of Kensington Palace, most of the exhibits are dedicated to Queen Victoria, who was born in Kensington Palace on May 24th, 1819. She lived there through her early years, raised there by her mother, Princess Kent, and lived under a strict rule of conduct called the Kensington system, which she didn't appreciate and thought it was very stifling. But the rooms that you walk through are where she received visitors. It also contains her dollhouses, which I found to be probably the most interesting part of the tour. Apparently she really enjoyed her dollhouses and spent a lot of time with them. She lived there until after she turned 18. About a month after she turned 18, her uncle, William IV, died, and at that time she became queen. Then, about a year later, in June 1838, she had her coronation, and then thereafter she moved into Buckingham Palace, becoming the first monarch to actually live there. Before going to Kensington Palace, I had heard that it can get quite busy. I was there late morning on a weekday in July. It wasn't too bad. There were no lines out front, so it was just a matter of getting in and going through. And from the video, you can see just about how many people were in their respective rooms. Not too bad at all. So for me, it was a very pleasant experience, and I'm glad I went. After walking back briefly to the hotel, I headed to an area of London near what's called the Monument. In 1985, I had gone there, and it's so tall in the narrow confines of the streets, I had to take it as two separate pictures. It looked much better and much easier to get with a modern smartphone, so wanted to stop and see that. Then I headed by walking down to the Tower of London. I had been to the Tower of London both in 1985 and also in 1990. Here's some video from 1990. You can see the security setup at the time, so they were at the point of searching bags to go into the Tower of London as of 1990. It's a little more of an organized and methodical process now, but basically they still check you before you go in. The Tower of London was founded in 1066 by William the Conqueror. Its official title is His Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress of the Tower of London. Wikipedia notes that the tower has served over the years as an armory, a treasury, a menagerie, the home of the Royal Mint, a public record office, and the home of the crown jewels of England. During the 16th and 17th centuries, its main use was as a prison, and some famous figures were imprisoned there, including Elizabeth I before she became queen, and Sir Walter Raleigh, among many others. It was also used as a prison during the First and Second World Wars. To me, the most interesting structure within the Tower of London is the White Tower, which was constructed originally by William the Conqueror. I've seen various dates for this, but the one on the building itself says 1080. It was very interesting going from room to room, looking at the armor, the weapons, the cannons. It was very well laid out, and you basically wound through the White Tower until coming out the other side. I will say that I didn't see very much in terms of step-free access. You have to walk up a flight of stairs to get in, and walking through the rooms and the floors, there are portions where you have to walk up some very tight curving steps to get to the next level. For a July weekday, I didn't think it was crowded at all. You hear stories about how sites like the Tower of London can be overrun by tourists. I didn't have that experience during my visit. It was pretty steady walking through. Obviously, in an old building like that with hard floors, it's going to be kind of echoey, but it was nothing that I couldn't deal with. I have been in other places where it was much louder just from the noise of the people going through it. Once you exit the White Tower, you're facing the building where the crown jewels are. I took a quick look to see how long the line was. It wasn't very long at all, so I was basically able to walk right up and go in. Now, I did remember from my previous experience that you are not allowed to take any photographs or video on the inside, so I walked through. They even have a couple of attendants standing there watching you as you walk through to make sure you're not doing anything you're supposed to do. But I did enjoy seeing them. They're kind of the main attraction for going to the Tower of London overall. Besides the armory and the crown jewels, there are other exhibits in some of the side buildings, sometimes rotating exhibits that you see on their website. So do take the time to check out what else is available. From there's a small park outside the Tower of London that leads down to where you can access Tower Bridge. You have to walk up a set of stairs to get to the bridge surface. It does give you some very nice views of the river itself, so my plan was to cross to the other side. Now, while I was doing that, I didn't realize that the bridge itself was going to actually be working. This was my first time seeing the bridge being raised while I was standing there, so I felt very fortunate to be able to record this. The bridge was being raised to accommodate a sailing ship that was being towed up the River Thames. Now, the sailing ship did not have any of its sails unfurled. It was just being pulled, and they were just trying to get it to the other side. When I did get to the other side of the river, I did manage to get a few images of the actual ship so you can see how tall it was. It definitely needed to have the bridge raised to be able to go through. One thing I wanted to see on the other side of Tower Bridge is something called a river stair. Now, these are throughout London. They're public access points that are historically used for people to be able to go down directly to the river. Now you'll note on this particular one, the Horsley Down Old Stairs, that there's a warning sign and obviously graffiti. So when you go down it, you have to be careful because of, depending on when the high tide or low tide is, you could be walking down to a safe place, or you could be walking down to somewhere where there was river that would be washing around your feet. So I didn't go down any farther than this. This was my first set of river stairs, but not my only one in London, and I'll talk about that in a future video. From there, I headed west along the south bank of the Thames on something called the Queen's Walk. I was heading toward a place called the Borough Market, which features a lot of restaurants and open-air food stalls. Now, to get there, you have to walk down past the HMS Belfast, which is a World War II warship that's now a permanent museum in that part of London. And what I was heading for was something called the Golden Hinde, which you can see here. This is a replica of a 16th century galleon in which Sir Francis Drake sailed around the world between 1577 and 1580. According to the literature available at the ship, this was actually built and launched in 1973 and has actually sailed over 100,000 miles, further than the original ship that Sir Francis Drake used. And now it's in the stage where they need to do a complete rework and refit, and it's been undergoing that process since 2017. The nice thing about it from a tourist point of view is, since it is a replica and not an original, you are allowed to pretty much touch everything that you have access to. So you can walk around, although you do have to duck your head very often because the lower decks especially are very low, so you end up kind of walking hunched over around most everywhere you're going. But everything you see, you can go ahead and touch and get a feel for what these ships must have been like for the crew which sailed them originally. This may be a bit of a niche tourist site. I can say that I really enjoyed it, but as you can see from the video, there aren't too many other people wandering around at the time I was there, which was actually late in its day before they would be closing here in just a little bit. So I did get on the ship and wander around, and family did come on after I left, but when I first got on there, I was the only tourist actually exploring it. So that's the end of my first full day in London. There's more to come.